Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Jeff Letterman. I am your host today from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. I work within Fish and Wildlife. And today we're really excited to be talking about some outdoor program classes that are being done at, in this case, Nashwauk High School. With us today is Luke Adam, a teacher at Nashwauk, and several of his students. And we're really excited to hear and learn about what you've been doing. I'm a former science teacher a long time ago, but really have a lot of passion for education, and so we're really excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
We have your PowerPoint is up and running, so we can, if you want to introduce yourself and just tell us who you have with you.
Okay, yeah, I have some of my students here. You guys want to just introduce yourself real quick?
I'm Braden Impala. I'm Aiden Reed.
I'm Jacob Honeycutt.
I'm Harley Pike.
And I'm Ada Nelson.
Yep, and I'll be pulling these kids in to talk about some of their experiences during today's presentation, and we'll go from there. So, okay.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us today. Really great to have all of you here. Looking forward to hear what the students have to say.
Okay, yeah, so my name again is Luke Adam, and I'm from a town called Nashwauk, about 3 hours north of the Twin Cities, kind of in the heart of the Iron Range. And I've taught math for 23 years and have always had a passion for the outdoors and teaching, fishing and hunting to people, and wanted to somehow integrate this into our school. So one thing I did in 2019 was I founded a class called Spartan Angling. And what that is, it kind of started off with an R3 grant from the Minnesota DNR, recruit, retrain, retain, and reactivate anglers. And the class turned into being, it's a class for credit. So it meets during the school day for grades 9 through 12, and then they get a science credit towards graduation. Kind of the overall message is students learn about the art and science of angling and we take like 3 fishing trips per semester. 2 of them are local, and then one of them is a kind of a far away location, usually up to Lake of the Woods. Some of the topics that we talk about, like fish biology, behavior, seasonal patterns, fishing techniques, lake maps, DNR surveys, invasive species, conservation, water quality, stuff like that. We do have a website. It's just spartanangling.com. You can also Google Spartan Angling just on Google, and there'll be several hits and articles that have come up. And we're also on Instagram and Facebook. I think those are going to be placed in the chat for your reference. And then some of the topics that we do in Spartan Angling, I'm going to kind of pull the kids and have them talk about kind of their experience. One thing we do that Jacob's going to talk about is rod building. So I'll pull Jacob in here, and he's going to give a little his 2 cents on building a rod from the class.
Good.
Yep.
Well, mostly for building the rod, it's a 12-foot pole, I think.
No, it's a 6.5 foot.
6.5. Oh, Never mind. And then it's just one of the kits you can get where it comes with the pole, the eyelets, and all the stuff you need to make it, the corks and all that. And we go through, and first we have to get the corks on properly. So we have to file out the holes so they fit around the rod. And then after we get all that set up, we have to by hand line up and tie the eyelets on one by one, and then we wax them or put a glue type base over it. Then we pretty much got a whole rod. Takes about 2.5 weeks.
Yep.
Roughly, and it's just fun to make them.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jacob.
Yeah.
Yep. So and the kids get to keep the rod, and they take it home with them, and they get to use it. And several fish have been caught on these things, and it's kind of an all-purpose rod for the kids to use, a 6'6" medium action rod. Another thing that we talk about in the class is like fish filleting and cooking. So we go on a fishing trip, we come home, and you can see right on the desk, we'll throw some cardboard down, and we'll fillet fish right in the school. And I think that's a big part of it for kids is, you know, what do I do after I catch this thing? I got to know how to fillet it. I got to know how to cook it or clean it or wash it, or, you know, how do I keep it from spoiling? All those things are really important so you can, you know, bring a meal home and enjoy it with your family and stuff. And then, you know, we typically the next day we'll cook the fish up in the kind of our kitchen area, and then we'll bring plates of fish around and share it with the, you know, the staff in the building and stuff, and just kind of show kids the proper way of cooking fish and making sure it's cooked properly and nice and golden brown and delicious. Some other things that we do, one of our big fishing trips that we go on is up to Lake of the Woods, and we've partnered with Borderview Lodge for that. And I'm going to have Jacob and Aiden kind of talk about their experiences with going up to Lake of the Woods.
Want me to go first?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, well, Lake of the Woods, just to start off, it was a really, really nice trip. I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. Never actually fished for walleye or ever caught a walleye before. And first fish I pulled out of the water was a 30-inch walleye. So first ever walleye, first fish to be caught in that boat. Yeah, it was a pretty good experience. I really liked it. Made some really fun memories with my friends and everybody else in the class, and you know, just getting to learn how to fish for this certain type of fish and all the different types of the fish that we caught. And it was just really fun to kind of have everything there and bring it back and fillet it.
Yeah.
Oh, you can go ahead and talk.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I wasn't on the boat where he caught the 30-inch walleye. I was right next to him on a different one, but for me, it was really fun because the little group that we had on the boat we took, we went out, and when we were going, I caught an eel pout for the first time, and I didn't know they ever really existed or what they were. It was really weird to pull up, see them, and feel them because they're all slimy and like a soft feeling fish. So that was a nice experience to catch them and actually see a new type of fish other than bass and crappie. But yeah, it was a really relaxing and a really nice day to fish.
Sounds good. Thanks for sharing. I'm going to keep Aiden here. Another thing we do for the fishing class is we package and produce our own fish batter. So I'll have Aiden kind of talk about that.
Yeah, so with the fish batter, that was really fun experience too as well. In the classroom, we set up a ton of stations. There was one station where they would put all the ingredients into a bucket and then mix it up. And then they would fill the bags, bring it over to a table, and then we'd seal the bags up with like a bag sealer. And it was fun. I was on the bag sealer station, and we had a lot of people going at it. We'd get about a box a day done, I would say. And we'd take these boxes and we'd sell them. We'd have a few sales around town, just kind of locally, and out front, even in front of our school, we'd sell some bags of the fish batter. And it was really fun experience. Even had some kids that weren't in the fishing class help out with it, and they had fun as well. So yeah, it was really fun.
Perfect. All right. Thanks for sharing. There's a couple other activities that we do. We also get into, you know, you can fish year round in Minnesota. So one thing that I've always kind of been passionate about and really enjoyed even as a kid was dark house spearing. So I wanted to give the kids that a kind of an opportunity. So I'm going to bring Braden and he's going to kind of talk about his spearing day that we did on Little Winnie.
Okay. Through my experience with dark house spearing, I pretty much like one of the first times I went. It was mostly the most relaxing type of fishing. It wasn't like where you gotta be like ready for any sort of bites. You kind of just like waited and waited for these big pike to swoop in. But unfortunately, we didn't get any that day. But it was probably the most relaxing and fun way to spend time, especially getting away from like work or I don't know, maybe from a stressful day at school. Especially when you're playing with like a decoy, basically it's a wooden lure that's tied to a line. You jig it up and down, and it swims around, tries to track pike that might want to try to stalk it. So it's like looking into a TV screen, basically, in a, how would I put it, like a 5 by 5 foot shed. And
Sounds good.
also pretty warm too,
Yep.
especially when you're trying to stay away from that cold weather.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing.
All right.
Great experience. And then, yeah, we also go ice fishing kind of on some local lakes and can find some crappies and go through kind of how to set up a tent, how to set up a portable. And a lot of kids have never drilled an ice auger hole before. So we'll go through that using a flasher to find your lure, to find fish. And that's a nice learning curve for kids. They figure that out pretty quick. So that's kind of things we do for Spartan angling. Because things got popular, we added a junior high elective called Spartan Outdoors. So a little bit broader overview, just not a fishing focus, but I want to try to expose kids to a lot of things outside. So this is new for this year. It's for grades 7 and 8. And I guess my goal for creating it was to create a class that kids can fall in love with an outdoor activity. What I always tell the kids is, you're going to play football in high school, you're going to play basketball, you're going to run track and do golf or whatever. Some of those sports are going to be short-lived. You're not going to be playing, football when you're 35 years old, but you might be kayaking when you're 35 or canoeing or camping or hiking or playing disc golf or something. So my goal is to introduce a whole bunch of activities and try to find kids that or try to find an activity that the kids are passionate about, that they really want to, kind of fall in love with and do the rest of their life. You can kind of see some of the activities that we have listed here. We also talk a lot about outdoor skills, survival techniques, stuff like that. Outdoor etiquette, taking care of our land and lakes and waters. And we talk about a lot of the places that, you can do these activities kind of listed there: Mesaba Trail, state parks, Voyages National Park, Superior Hiking Trail, Boundary Waters Canoe Area, National Forest, lakes, and more places. I mean, in northern Minnesota, we have such a rich backyard, and within an hour or two, we have all these places available that we can take kids and do things. So being in northern Minnesota, we're kind of blessed to have this. And I'm going to call in some kids now to talk about our first field trip that we ever did for Spartan Outdoors. I'm going to have Harley come over and talk about her kayaking and hiking experience.
So before we even actually went on this field trip, we studied a lot about kayaks and we did a couple presentations on them actually. And so when we got to this field trip, we were already kind of prepared. And when we got to the location, we looked at some maps and hiked for maybe like an hour at most. And then when we got to the pit, they had like 20-ish kayaks and 2 canoes. Me and Ada and my other friend Ashlyn took one canoe and 3 boys took the other one. And then we were kind of off for a while for our own for maybe an hour. And then we switched with me and Jaylee switched with our friends in the class, Chloe and Mara. And then we switched and our other friend Ashlyn was still in the canoe. And then we kind of just went around in circles for a while until lunch. And then after lunch, we just hiked back. It was really fun and relaxing. And it was a good day to get out of school for once.
Yep. And where did we do this at? Remember?
No.
Yep. Minnesota Discovery Center in Chisholm. They kind of have a hiking, biking trail, and they have a nice big pit to go explore. So that's where we chose for a venue. Sounds good. Thanks for sharing. Then we also talk about kind of the Boundary Waters canoe area and you know, camping techniques and stuff like that, and kind of camping hacks or whatever. We also did like a little fire building exercise, so I'm going to pull Ada in to talk about those two activities for her.
So for the Boundary Waters research, that was a really fun experience. We got to see all the different lakes that are up in the Boundary Waters, the different trails that you can take, the different portages you can take, all the different campsites along the lakes and all that stuff. And then for our fire building, at the beginning of that project, we were told to bring in fire building stuff and stuff that you think you can start a fire with. And we did a bunch of research on the safety and on the supplies that we need. And then one day we went outside and we started our fires, and it was really cool. We got to learn how to use a flint and steel, and yeah, it was really fun.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. Great job. We also kind of incorporate some outdoor literature. I'm kind of passionate about a book called My Side of the Mountain, and it's, you know, it's about a boy who runs away and lives off the land. So we kind of did a lot of stuff with that book, and one of them was building a fire with flint and steel. We also tried some venison. I brought in some pickled fish for the kids, some smoked trout, just to really make that literature experience come alive and really incorporate some, you know, English language arts standards into what I'm doing. And we, you know, talk about reading maps, interpreting maps, and, you know, how to analyze that kind of stuff, cardinal directions, and figuring out navigating on different waterways and also land. And then kind of just want to touch on like funding. So the initial funding, like I said, it came from the Minnesota DNR, was that R3 grant. But kind of since then, you know, to take field trips, to get gear, to get equipment, what I kind of try to do is I write little letters to charitable gambling funds like the Legions, the Lions Clubs, the Knights of Columbus, stuff like that. There's a lot of gambling money that is available that people can take advantage of in schools. The community funds, you got to get creative with this. You know, you can't expect the school to fund all this. That's kind of probably the biggest thing for me is I wanted to create something that was kind of self-sustainable. And the harder I work to find funding, the more successful it can be. I'm not going to go ask my principal or superintendent for $20,000 for transportation and buying fishing gear and stuff like that. I'm going to find the money and I'm going to do it. And it's kind of hard to say no that way. And then you can also I wrote to a lot of different companies that are, you know, angling companies. They offer discounts, free merchandise. People are willing to give, you know, I was seeking out donations. We got a lot of like free rods, tackle boxes, stuff like that from people, old fish houses. So people are willing to donate things as well. And it's, you know, like I said, it's a high supportive rate. When you talk about youth angling, it's not very often when you get told no. So that's kind of been my experience so far and kind of how we sustain this financially. And there's my contact information here where I work, and my email. And you can, if you have questions or comments, or, you know, if you want to reach out to me about some advice or something, I'd be more than happy to talk about what's going on with these programs.
Thanks so much, Luke. This is great information, and it's really fun to hear the students sharing their stories. Awesome opportunities that you're providing for them. So if you want to stop sharing your screen, we'll open it up and maybe have some of the students gather around you, and we can start going through some of the questions. While they're getting there, I just want to remind folks that we do this weekly. So if you're interested in seeing and hearing about more of these programs that we've offered, I'm going to post in the website or a link to our website where the video recording for the program today will be posted in a few days. And then you can also access our other programs from the last 197 episodes. And then also if you want to sign up for upcoming classes. So we do have a few questions, and if you have others, folks, we've got time here, so please put those in the Q&A and we'll go through them. One of our viewers says, it's a great class. Thanks for engaging kids in the outdoors. Do you teach the importance of picking up and disposing of fishing line?
No. And that could be something that could definitely be, I mean, we talk about, I mean, definitely not leaving it places. I mean, we always take it back if we ever have a big tangle or something. But we have discussed like setting up some fishing line recycles areas like at boat landings, and that's kind of a future endeavor that we're kind of looking at doing for the next year.
Yeah, good. Glad to hear you're looking into some of those stewardship pieces. This is maybe for one of the students. Have you learned, or do you have any tips on the best way to catch and release and make sure fish survive after you catch them? Any tips?
Remember from the fishing class?
Usually I just try to dip the fish into the water. Mostly try to get the water running through their gills, and especially if sometimes the hook might hit one of the gills. You want to try to release them back into the water fast as you can, basically, so then they can survive.
Yeah, a really good tip. That's the key thing, right? Keep them out of the water as little as possible. So thank you. Someone recommended bird watching. Have you done that, or have you thought about that? And that they point out that it's a wonderful year-round activity you can do for the rest of your life, all over the world.
Yep, spot on. We did not do that this fall. It is on my curriculum list I mean, we're probably 30 minutes from the Zaxim Bog, and we could go there and check that out. That's definitely on the radar for future use for sure.
Excellent. Question for you, Mr. Adam. Where did you learn about fishing? This is from Kathleen, and your outdoor lifestyle.
I mean, for me, this came from my grandfather, and I mean, I was fortunate enough to have that generational pass on of like fishing and hunting knowledge, and my father too would take me hunting and grouse hunting and stuff. So I come from a line of educators. I also come from a line of like fishing and hunting, and I think the stars aligned and to create these opportunities for kids.
Thank you. Question for the students. Are there activities you haven't been able to do yet in Spartan Outdoor that you'd like to explore?
Well, this is my first year or first semester taking it, but I mean, there's still plenty left to go so far for this semester, so I'm hoping we can get to everything.
How about those of you who took it? Anything that we left out, do you think?
I think we had a lot of good experiences that we did, but I think it would be really cool to like incorporate like tracking a deer or hunting experiences, because that's something I really like.
Okay, excellent. Anybody else? I'm gonna do. Go ahead.
I think that we pretty much covered a lot, and it was for a fishing class. It's pretty much everything. I would guess, probably some hunting stuff that would probably be nice. But other than that, I don't feel like we missed really anything, and it was one of the best classes that I've ever taken. So
Excellent. I'm gonna do a follow-up for each of you, and then what was the best experience or the best part of your this class, or which topic have you enjoyed the most? I'll call on names. Jacob, go first.
Why me? You have
it's the easiest because you get to go first. Nobody will take your answer.
I would say that last year is when I took the fishing class. So what I liked most about that was just being able to go outdoors more instead of, obviously I don't like school, but I got to go outside more and do something that I like doing. I like to go fishing. It's relaxing, and I felt it's a lot. I'd rather do that than come to class. So that's always my favorite part.
Yeah, thank you. What is it about being outside though that's so much better?
Well, it depends. Wintertime, it's more or less just cold. I've always been, I guess my mom's always said I've been more of a winter person since I was young. But it's just always nice to just be outside in the fresh air. And then summertime, it's just, if you're fishing out on a boat, it's just relaxing to sit back and enjoy the sun.
Thanks, Jacob. Ada, how about you? Best experience or best part of the class?
My favorite would probably be going kayaking. I love spending the day outside with all my friends and by the water.
Excellent. Aiden?
I would say my best experience is just being outside in general, being with my friends, the entire class, even the people I didn't really know. I still felt like we all had a connection, just being together, doing these outdoor things that I grew up with, and the outside. Like, I'm more of a winter person, and just being outside, it's something that I grew up with, and it's nostalgic. I grew up with hard work out in the winter, and well, it just feels good to be outside with friends and family. So
Yeah, excellent. It's fun to share that, isn't it? Harley? Oh, school announcement.
I really enjoyed the kayaking because I've been kayaking since I was like 5 years old, always with my uncle and my dad, and it's just relaxing and peaceful.
Nice. And Braden?
I'll say one of my best experiences was going to Mr. Adams' cabin and being able to take a boat just full of my buddies, get to hang out, spend the time in the sun, and then got to go in a hot tub. Enjoy that for a couple hours, basically, and eat some steak.
Yeah, and explore the trails around his cabin.
Yeah, sounds like a fun place.
It was.
Question for Luke. In this, I think Anne asked if there's any tips on expanding this program to areas in southern Minnesota, and I would say more generally, I mean, you touched on a couple of things about equipment, but any other overarching recommendations you have for teachers or even parents who might want to try to do this in their community?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to find people that are passionate about the outdoors for one thing. That really have a passion to teach kids and want to share that knowledge. And you got to be a little bit creative with funding, and try to get people to kind of get partners and get buy-in, and you got to convince people this is good for kids in the community. And I think that's kind of the biggest first step, is convincing that it's a good idea, and trying to integrate other subject areas, like with English language arts, reading books. I'm incorporating science standards, so you can convince school board personnel or administration that this class is going to cover. It's just not a fishing class. We're covering other subject areas. I mean, we're cooking food. That's another topic, is food preparation. So the more you can integrate into a school setting or whatever, I mean, I think the better off it's going to be.
Yeah, well, as a math teacher, you'll appreciate, a lot of the classes with like circumference and stuff. You put a cylinder on your desk and you measure diameter and circumference and stuff. Why not go outside and do that? Measure trees, right? So there's a lot of really great examples like that. Another topic, have you done anything? And Dorothy is suggesting you should do stargazing. Of course, it's outside the normal school hours, but have you done anything in that?
Haven't even thought about it, but it's a great suggestion. I will look into it.
By the way, we have a really great webinar that we did on the Northern Lights. So
Okay.
if anyone wants to take a look at that in our archives, again at mndnr.gov/discover, that's one of the programs that was really popular last winter. Question for the students: what kind of bait, and this obviously is in northern Minnesota, have you found to be the best to catch fish?
Depends.
It depends. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Say a little more about that.
Well, it all really depends, because on personal preference mostly, because summertime, with how many lily pads and shade we have, I like using a topwater frog in the summer, and then winter, I just always throw on a nice little minnow, like a shiner or some type of minnow on, and have that do all the work. But it comes down to personal preference.
having confidence in what you're using. It makes a big difference too, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Anyone else?
Personally, I like to use a spinner bait. Catches mostly pike and largemouth, but sometimes you might get something random. Actually, during what was it? This summer, I was using basically a small spinner bait, but it's called a buzz bait, and I caught probably a 2 pound bullhead on it. That surprised me.
Wow.
I do like those baits.
Yeah,
They're top water spinners.
Yeah, you hit my favorite lure. Good job. It's so easy to use and it's very weedless, which is really nice too. Okay,
Yeah. I
go
would.
ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Wait.
Well, I would just say that I really like using more real stuff. If it's an artificial, more realistic bait, I like that. But I found the best of my experiences. I used to go out in my yard and catch some earthworms in my yard after it rained. Go get some minnows. I know I have a little creek over in the corner of one of the towns I used to live in that I could go over there and get a few minnows, go to a gas station. Yeah. And I just think normal hook with live bait, I think that's the best in my view.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, you can't beat live bait a lot of times.
And worms are easy to find. Lift up any sort of rock or right after it rains. Just go.
Yeah.
That's what me and my old neighbor used to do.
Yeah, very good tip. Question from Mary. She knows there are some other schools, teachers that are doing things that are similar to what's happening in your school. She's aware of some things in Northfield, but are you aware, are there some networks or ways that, and have you been talking or how have you been sharing, I guess, with other schools and making this more widely known?
Yeah, I've talked to a few neighboring districts. I know Hill City is doing something similar to this, which is about 35 miles southwest of here. Yeah, I mean, it's not super popular from what I can tell. I don't know. I hope it can take off. It gets glowing reviews from parents and students, and I think it's a win-win for everybody. And I'm more than happy to help other districts that want to get going on this and what we got to do to, or communities or community education or whatever, whoever wants to be passionate and get this going. I'm happy to sit down and share what I do.
Yeah, thank you for your work that you do on that. I know you've had some really good media coverage in some of the local newspapers and even state newspapers, which I think has really helped get the word out about your programming. Um, there is a organization called the Minnesota Association for Environmental Education. So if folks are interested in connecting, there's a lot of folks that are passionate about these type of activities, or at least getting kids outside. That's a good resource. There's also Minnesota Naturalist Association, again, maybe not necessarily in school, but there's organizations, folks that come together to work on these topics and getting people educated about the outdoors. So, and we've already mentioned No Child Left Inside. That's a grant program that we do have ongoing funding for. We're just wrapping up selections for this year through the DNR for the next round of grants for No Child Left Inside. But you can see everybody who's previously received awards on our website. So if you want to check that out, I posted that in the chat. And we'll have another round next fall, probably is when that information will be released about the next funding round. So if you're interested in know people who might want to apply and get some resources to help do more of this type of work. Another question I had, where is it? This is for the students again. We kind of touched on this, but I know I actually asked one of you, but what do the others think about this being outside, and how does that help your learning? Or does it impact your ability to learn when you're outside versus when you're in the classroom?
It's a stress reliever. It's definitely more relaxing being outside in the open. Because I know sometimes when I'm in a room with a lot of kids, I kind of feel like it can be overwhelming because everybody will be talking. There's kind of an echo, but kind of makes the environment a little bit hard to learn in. And it's not with all classes, but there is definitely a few classes that are like that. But I feel like being outside definitely helps because it's more open, feels less crowded, and just and it's an impact on your mental health as well because
Sure.
just being outside.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add to that? My daughters are really fortunate, actually. When they're juniors and seniors in high school, they got to spend 6 months at an outdoor school and doing similar types of activity like this. Over half the time they're in the classroom, or they were outside of the classroom, outside. And you would think sometimes like there's so many distractions when you're outside, right? And they would say one of the biggest things is that they actually were able to focus better when they're outside than sitting in the classroom. So that's one thing I remember them talking about. So we have a little bit of time if anyone has any more questions. Benji, did we miss any? Are there any that you came up with that we didn't get to yet? If folks have any other questions, you can throw them in the Q&A. Can get to them.
I see somebody just made a comment about loving the comments about stress reduction. You can measure your heart rate indoors versus outdoors. It'd be kind of a cool science study someday.
Yeah, a little bit of a lab assignment for students.
I'll leave that to the science teacher.
All right, I think that covers all the questions. We really appreciate all of you taking time out of your lunch to be here and join us and share your stories. And Mr. Adam, great work you're doing. Thank you for all you're doing to help facilitate these activities with your students and sharing your experiences with everybody else across the state. It's been really great to hear about this, and hopefully more folks will be in touch and try this in their own school. That would be awesome. So again, next every week, every Wednesday, we have these programs coming up. Actually, our next episode next week is about the American chestnut tree that's was all over the country, especially outside of or east of Minnesota, but there are quite a few of them in the state now. So we have an expert who's going to talk about that and what we know about that tree and how important they are. And then the week after, for our 200th episode, we have another birding talk. And this one's about some of the birds that we all really love to hate, that maybe we don't really like because of some things that they do, but she's going to give us some more ideas about why we should care about those birds too. So that'll be really fun. Again, sign up, register at mndnr.gov/discover. Thanks again for joining us today. Sorry, you got to go back to school, but back to class, but we really appreciate you having join us today, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good one.